Okay, now that we've got our milling machine running again, it's running well, pretty well spot on, we're going to have to go back to the original job. And the original job, as I was saying, is the stop, which goes onto the AL356V, as you can see it. Now, this particular machine has got an 8-inch jaw, which that's a 3 jaw. I've got a 4-inch as well. All the faceplates, etc., not that that's here, neither here nor there. That's the actual stop that I started to make. Now, I can show you from the end of the lathe itself, which is a lot better. As you can see here, that's sitting reasonably well. The only problem is I went crazy on the milling machine when I was testing it, and I cut too much out, so that corner should be there. It's not, so I'm going to have to make a new piece. But at the same time, just to explain, this black line, everything above it has to be removed, and the reason it has to be removed is because if that is sitting on there and it's bolted down, if you, like I said, if it doesn't matter whether it's an 8-inch, 6-inch or a 12-inch chuck, it's not an issue. What happens is if you open the jaws right up, that's going to possibly hit on here, which is the top of your stop, so you want that as low as it can. So that's about 30 mil there, so that's 30 mil extra you can use. So it just depends, you might have the stop there, might have it here, I don't know. But what I'll be also doing is where the lock goes underneath here, that's got about a 30 mil section in, but I'm going to only have it so only goes in, I think it's about 10 mil, and that'll come up against that, so then I can place it on of the saddle. I'll be able to use it here or on the other side or wherever I like. Otherwise we'll catch back on the milling machine. Yeah, so I've got my bandsaw out. I've got a piece of material in there. I'm going to make it probably 100 or just over 100 mil, and then what I'll do is once I've cut that off, I'll face it all, square it off, and then I'll start marking out to cut it all out again. So as you see, that's the first, just starting on the first cut now. That's gone a lot quicker than I thought it was. Whoa, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Just throw it all around, she'll be right. All right, as you can see, I've got it set up. I've got my fly cutter that I made in the previous video, and we're going to actually just flatten it out, just so it's virtually a clean surface. Turn it over, do the same on the other side. As you can see, it's a fairly nice cut here. Yeah, just about see reflection there. Probably tell the time if you watch, if you put it in there. So that's nice and smooth, it's quite good. What I'll do now is I'm going to turn it over, do the other side. I won't worry about these sides or that end at this stage. I might just do one end because I have to mark it all out. So I'll use this particular surface to mark out exactly where I'm going, according to the mistakes I made on the other one. Anyway, when I've faced them all and I've got this set up, because I'll be having it out on a 45-degree angle, then I'll come down with a end mill and I'll cut out my 45 degrees from there. Alright, we've got our piece of metal in the vise. As you can see, I've just roughly marked out the 45-degree angles, which will be a 90 when it's turned over. Oops, this has gone out. As you can see, that's 45-degree angle. And then what I'll do, I'm going to brace it under here and I'll lock it up on that side so it can't move anywhere. So I'm actually putting steps in it, and I'll get down a certain amount and I'll take it across and then work back, then come back down again. Alright, this is what we've got at the moment. This is the top part. Yeah, it still needs to be cleaned up a bit more, but that's fine. You've got the angles and everything else. Now, I'll just put it on the edge of the actual lathe itself on the bed. And as you can see, that sits quite squarely. Your 45s or your 90s exactly spot on. There's a gap on the in here, so there's no problem. And I've got a small gap under here. So now the next part will be a plate from there right across there. This part will be stepped, and it'll probably be stepped up about 1 mil above the rest of the plate, so that there's a bolt will be going down through here. Then that'll be clamped together. And then there's not sure whether I'm going to put 2 or 3 sections in here, but anyway, we'll have to wait to see as we're progressing. Just done there is I drilled a pilot hole. Now that's in this piece of metal here. Now what happens there is I made this off camera because I didn't realise it wasn't running. Anyway, I made this bar here. Now what happens is that will fit onto the lathe like that, and then that part here will be underneath like that. That still has to be trimmed off. So what happens is, in essence, there'll be a hole through there. Whoops. Now I've got a an 8mm bolt. Now I'm going to drill that right through. That'll be sitting in possibly about halfway into there, so it doesn't lose too much tension. Then I'm actually going to bolt it from the bottom. So what's going to happen, as you can see, that'll be sitting on there like so. There'll be an air gap, and then when I pull that up, that'll lock it all together. Now what the idea is going to be is, because I've got it upside down, I've actually can put a multiple whatever in the top here. If you imagine, I could put a dial gauge in the top. I can put a fixed stopper, so that's a fixed one, so if I can just put it straight up to it and cut it directly. Or what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a micro switch that goes through there, so if something happens, the lathe will automatically shut off, and I'll show you all that a bit later on. So that's how it's going to be sitting eventually, like so. Alright, I've got my main block in there now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill. It's only a pilot hole. I have to take it easy. It's only a very small drill bit. So, like I said, that's going to go in full depth, and then I'll put a thread in it and then work out the top when I've done that. that is a 8mm thread, so I'll drill out a hole appropriate and then I'll actually put the thread right in. Right, what we're going to do here, I've got an 8mm hole in there, but because we've got that type of head on it, I'm just going to recess it just enough for it to locate. I don't need much of a recess, it's just enough for it to sort of go in there like so. So that's just for it to sit in there type of thing, so that should be alright. Alright, what we've got now is, that's our locking block with all the angles and everything. This is upside down, of course. I've got the thread in here, as you can see. Right, we've got the thread in there. Now, we've made this little lock plate. Needs a bit of a clean up on the base, but that's fine. Now, that lock plate comes around this way. If I can find a hole. There we go. Now, as you can see, there's a shoulder on that side there. Now, that will sit there, and then as I screw that down, that's going to lock in onto it, and that'll be right. Now, then I'll just loosen this off and put it on top here. Okay, now I've got the option. If I want to, I can put a hard stop coming off on this side here, or I've got all of this area where I can put 2 or 3 stops in there. One being, I suppose we'll put the, well, it doesn't matter, we'll put a hard stop here. I've got a micro switch assembly which is going onto it as well, so if it does go too far, it'll hit the micro switch and turn the lathe off automatically within probably half to 1 turns of the chuck, so it's pretty quick. Alright, with the top section of the actual stop, we've got 3 holes. There'll be one here, one there, and one over here. Now, the reason for 3 holes, the first one here, I'll put a dial gauge in, and the dial gauge is approximately 9.5mm, and then that will have a lock bolt going from the side to tighten that up. That's a 9.5mm hole here. It'll have probably a 6mm screw going in the side that'll hold the actual gauge in there. Now this one here, I'm putting another one which will be a hard stop, and that'll have a bolt going through from the other side coming out, and that will be with a 10mm by 1.5mm thread. And then I've got a third stop down here, which, you know, people might think it's silly, but that's going to be one that'll house a electronic switch, like a micro switch sort of thing, because on the lathe I have got micro switches on there for automatic stops if I need to. So this one I'm going to put all 3 in. I might not use all 3, but I'll get it all ready for it. Now also if you have a look, I've got a jack underneath here. As you can see, that's holding that up so it won't go sliding sideways or anything. Now I'm only taking this out with a 6mm drill bit at the moment, because then I'll take this out 9.5 and the other one's just 33. The second hole is slightly offset further down. That's because I've got a gauge here which is sitting up there, and they'll be threaded all the way through with the bolt coming from the other side. Now, I haven't tapered this or chamfered it or anything at this stage, but if all goes well, that should pop in there. Oh, look at that. It'd be nice and snug going in there. I'll just clean it out a fraction. It's a bit of a burr on the other side, that's why it won't go through. But other than that, that will sit like that, but on the other side, of course, that will go down to that point, and then as you can see, that'll work. And we'll have the grub screw in the side to hold it on. So it's not over snugged, it's just nice. Now I'm drilling I'm going to put a 6mm bolt in there, 6x1. I'll do the rest on the in the vise. It'll look safe. Alright, we're back over to lathe now. Now what we've made is this particular unit here, which is the part of the carriage stop. That's your carriage which goes across, of course. Now as you can see, there's 3 holes in there. That particular one is set up for the actual dial gauge itself. Now one of these two, irrespective of whichever one you want to use, you can use as a complete dead stop, hard stop, whatever you want to call it. And the other one will be for a micro switch system, which is automatically will switch the lathe off. Now that will sit on here, and it will also sit in here. And as I showed earlier, there's the rack under here, so they'll fit in there quite nicely, so it's no problem. Then we've got the bottom half, which fits in like so. Yeah, and as you can see, that's got a definite shoulder on there. You can see that. That's about nearly virtually 2mm, doesn't really matter. Now that will sit on that way, like that. Alright, so that'll actually lock it on. Now to put it on, I've got a 8mm bolt here. That's a prop one like that. That'll fit in there. That will fit in there, as you can see. Just do that up. Now you don't have to take it right off, because you can actually put that on and then slide it back underneath. So that's what we'll do at the moment. We'll just put that under there, slide that across, and so that'll be there for the moment. Now I can understand, I have got the bolt from underneath, and it is a fraction more awkward to put on. The reason I haven't got it on from here is because this way allows me to put more hole system wherever I need to put them. Now I have got a, you can see that's a proper Allen key. It's not really that awkward. It's just a matter of lining it up. Just make sure that's all straight. Then you just do it up tight, like so. There's no movement whatsoever. I can't move that. And then if you want to, you can either have a hard stop, which is just a plain threaded bolt, or a whatever you want to put in. It doesn't really matter. You can actually put that in like so. Now that thread is all the way through. You can have it 6 inches or 150mm long, or whatever you want, or you can adjust it to a short span like that. So it's a matter of undoing that, as you can see it, doing the nut up. It only has to be like that, so that when the lathe comes up onto it, it'll just lock on straight onto it. So there you go. It can't go any further than that. So that's that part of it. Also what we've got is we've got a dial gauge. This one happens to be an imperial one. Now that will slide in there. Now I've got it so that the cap or the adjustment ring will sit just above that. Then we've just got a little 6mm grub, screw here. We'll just do that just snug. It doesn't have to be tight. It's just enough to You can see the dial gauge work, and that can also, as it comes through, you can either have that in conjunction with your hard stop or whatever you want to do. So you can see that you can either do that manually. Like I said, I've got DRO, but I can use this in conjunction with a hard stop, whatever I want to do. Hard stop I can use for if I'm threading inside the chuck, like inside a job on the internal. I can actually preset the full depth of it, put my tool in, and then I can cut the thread in it, just going, say, from inside or out. Now also, as you know, there's another hole there, so that hole there could be for a micro switch, or you can drill another one elsewhere, and that'll be for switching the lathe off on the automatic system that I've got.